Hello and welcome to one-on-one series of Urban Update. Today we are going to discuss a non-conventional urban issues, the interlinkages of human rights issues with city planning and city design. When we talk about human rights issues, then we think about a lot of serious issues that come to mind that violations of human rights are related to. But if a city is not able to provide basic civic services, basic water supply, if one person living in a slum or informal settlement is not getting access to water supply, then we are denying them basic human rights. That is also the fundamental rights under our constitution. If we are not able to provide good air quality to our citizens, then we are denying them right to live. That is also a basic human right. So we will be discussing all these issues with the honorable member of National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Dnyaneshwar Mulay, who will be talking about how these urban issues are interlinked with city planning and city design, and how urban local bodies can ensure that our people living in cities have access to basic civic services, basic infrastructure facilities, whether we are talking about public places, government buildings or any other facilities available in cities. So making sure that every citizen living in urban areas have access to these facilities and services, then urban local bodies have to capacitate their employees and leaders to make, so when they are making policy projects and programs, they should keep human rights issues in their mind. So we will be discussing all these issues with NHRC member Sri Dnyaneshwar Mulay. We are seeing that our cities are rebuilding themselves after post-pandemic world. So how do you see that urban planning and urban governance are related with human rights issues, and what are the key components that when city managers, policymakers should keep in mind while they are making plans for our cities?
Thank you, Abhishek. It's important to remember that the major shift that we have seen in the last 70 years plus is really movement of people from rural areas to urban areas. Now this has put tremendous pressure on our urban spaces, and therefore while there is employment in urban areas, it's also created some basic human rights issues. Look at Dharavi, for example. It's considered Asia's and perhaps the world's largest slum unit. Now how as Indian citizens we can ensure the dignity of these people? What is, after all, what is human rights? Human rights is number one, right to live. How does one live in Dharavi, for example? If I am forced to stay there, will I like to go to Dharavi? Life, then dignity, then justice, equality. These are some of the basic tenets or characteristics of human rights. Now whether it is in Dharavi or elsewhere, in Delhi, say you have areas like Jahangirpuri, but you also have areas right in the heart of New Delhi, which can be described as slums. Now if we do not give them accessibility, livability, because there are issues in these places of water, electricity, living space, space for children to play around, that is also human right. Anything that is effectively useful for human growth in terms of health, in terms of spirituality, in terms of economic upward mobility, in terms of ease of doing business, moving around in the city, all of these essentially constitute human rights. And city can either raise its, what should I say, level to effective human rights protection, or it can go down to the dumps where we just take our own fellow citizens live like insects. That should not happen. So, this is how it is directly connected. Wherever there is a human, wherever there is a human dignity involved, that is human rights, comes there.
So now, sir, we are talking about over 50% population of the world living in urban spaces. In India, approximately 32% people are living, and maybe in 2011-21 census, the number could be 35, 38 in the range of this percentage. So people, like you mentioned Dharavi, where per square kilometer population density is in the north of 1,50,000 per square kilometer, and even the city like Delhi has 11,000 per square kilometer density. So when we are addressing the issues of human rights in informal settlements like Dharavi, so what are the key components that urban local bodies representatives, municipal officials, they should, do you think that they need some kind of training in human rights?
Absolutely. In my view, it is absolutely essential for every civil servant, every uniform person, in fact every individual, to be aware about the human rights. And civil, the people who work particularly in the local self government institutes, whether it is municipal corporations, whether it is in block level officers or even at village level officers, if they are aware that human rights values have to be followed for the overall growth of society, for the overall upward mobility of the entire socio-economic structure which has so far been deprived from the developmental process, then the human rights values are absolutely essential to know about, because then they will do things with compassion, then they will do things in keeping in mind that people have right to good governance. Human rights is also right to good governance. They have right to have clean water in their village. As you know, village ponds, even urban water bodies are under threat. I do not know whether you have gone to Balswara lake in Delhi. It is slowly corroding. It is not only the iron corrodes. Our land is corroding, our air is corroding, our water bodies are corroding. How can we live a happy life? Your 5 elements of nature, we have to, the closer we are, the better coexistence with them, better our living is. Trees are being cut left and right, crop patterns are being destroyed just for more yield. In that process, land is getting completely destroyed. And same things, sometimes I do feel that the wholesale borrowing of Western ideas of development have also affected our society negatively, because there is this huge greed for money and material help. In that process, it sets an unequal race in society, and some people are left behind, some people amass a lot of wealth, and it is 10% of the people in the world who hold 90% of the wealth of the world. That wealth means resources, whether it is natural resources, whether it is mineral resources, whether it is water resources. We always, you and me, grew in the thinking that water is natural, it is free. It is no more free. You and me have thought that, well, air is free. It is no more free. You have to have air towers. Recently, Delhi government established smoke towers. So we must realize what really is the root cause of this and address that. And I think no better body than urban and rural, these local self-government institutions. So the people who work there have to be empowered with understanding of.
You rightly talked about that good governance and understanding of human rights issues by urban local bodies and also in the rural areas. It's very crucial. Talking about good governance, you have reformed a lot of things during your tenure as a diplomat, and tell us more about this passport movement that you brought in India and made it easily accessible for everyone, and you are fondly called as the passport man of India. So how do you define, you explain that what are the activities you focused on and what were the challenges?
See, I had a very simple thing in my mind. When I became Indian Foreign Service officer in 1983, went to Japan on my first posting in the first year itself. When my parents wanted to get their passport made, they had to travel 500 kilometers, stay in somebody else's house in Mumbai for 4 or 5 days, make a few rounds of trips to the passport office. How can a common Indian person travel hundreds of kilometers just to get a document? What is passport after all? After all, passport says that this gentleman is living here, he is citizen of India, this is his date of birth. It is not a rocket science. So, for such a document, why should people spend nights in a city spending hundreds of rupees? Why should they drive for 800 kilometers and thousands of kilometers? In my state, people from Latur used to go to Nagpur, people from Kolhapur used to come to Pune and Mumbai. Similarly, people from Indore used to go to Bhopal. Does not make sense. There are more people need passport in Bhopal, not in Indore, not in Bhopal. So, this creates inequities, means lack of opportunity. What is passport? Passport I call is a gateway for airport, for seaport, for land port, for progress, economic development, education, training, technology, trade, commerce, even tourism and entertainment. You need a passport. So, my idea was a day should come in India where everybody should be able to easily have passport. So, there are 20 documents mentioned earlier, we brought it to 3. Today, if you have a PAN card, election identity card and Aadhaar card, you should be ideally able to get your passport. Where is 13 or 16 or 20 and where is 3? This is the simple. Now, I did not only make the rules simple, I also increased the centers. During my time, we opened approximately in 2 years approximately 400 new passport centers in India by using the post offices. Technology is such that today if you want to print a passport, you can print it on your printer also. What you need is a technology. In future, in my view, you do not have to go anywhere. You will have a password, use that password and print it on your own printer. That is how it should happen in my view. If I am given a maid in charge in future of passports, I will make sure that every individual is able to print his or own passport when it is over, because you can have enough technological advancements and security walls build up to make it non-fraudable, if I can use the word. So, my mother today, if she has to go to obtain a passport renewal, she has to go only 5 kilometers. So, where is 500 kilometers? So, I did not do it for anybody else, but I did it for my mother who stays in my village, my friends who are left behind in my village and still cultivating the land. I did it for them. And it happened for them everywhere. When I think of people who are around me and are deprived from living a life of dignity, that moves me from inside, that makes me restless.
I think the idea is that if someone in your neighborhood, in your vicinity, if you see one problem and if you can address that issue, it can be upscaled and can benefit huge number of people in the long term. So, my next question is related to your experience in inculcating good governance practices and ease of doing things. How urban local bodies can learn from your experience and also make sure that because a lot of cities are not now into e-governance mechanism, how can they benefit from this and make people's life easy?
Well, I think there has to be a huge coordination between the people's representatives, whether it is mayors, Nagar Sevak, councillors and the bureaucracy. That is the number one thing. Today, that coordination is only for certain purposes, rest all it is laissez-faire. Then people's involvement in governance is very important. But above all, what we have to see that actually we elect good people, irrespective of parties. Let us elect good people. That is what our constitution wants us to do. That is not happening. Good people are not coming to politics. So, when they have a command over bureaucracy, the bureaucracy also tends to obey the masters, because in democracy the political leaders are the bosses. Let there be no doubt about that. The primary responsibility of governance lies with not with the officers, but lies with the politicians. But officers also take charge because they are there for the permanent. So, the inculcating in them values of justice, equality and freedom, and access of every citizen, every resident of that city to these things really means access to water, access to good sewage system, access to good air, access to good urban planning. Today urban planning, in fact, unfortunately we have more experts, we have more consultants and we have less urban planning. You see, name one city other than Chandigarh, to some extent Bhopal, to some extent Bhubaneswar, to some extent Udaipur. Most of the other cities have deteriorated in the last 70 years. Bangalore was once considered garden city. Hardly any garden I am able to see when I travel in that place. So, why it has happened like this right in front of our eyes, when people say that they are more educated, more learned, more degrees, more foreign returned people, more people are going abroad, more experts are coming. Why it is happening? Because that essential commitment to democracy is lacking. We have to inculcate, and one way of doing it is to inculcate human rights awareness. Constitution has given everything. We have created a number of laws to support the constitution, but we do not have shortage of good laws in our country. We have shortage of good implementation. That is where people have to come together. They have to make the political leaders accountable for their actions, because people are the bosses. We the people have created the constitution, but we forget, and we forget, that is why the leaders forget, the bureaucracy forgets. Judiciary is trying its best, but judiciary has its own problems, like pendency of the cases, lack of appointments of the judges, corruption that has entered in the judicial sphere also. And most important, we must debate these issues and discuss and create dialogue. So, I would like to compliment the All India's local self-government institutes. You have started dialogues, whether they are e-dialogues or direct dialogues, they are very important. Citizens should be able to speak out.
Sir, you beautifully link these two issues, urban planning and human rights, because when we talk about human rights, general the thought process and general understanding is we are talking about judicial deaths, torture by the government or the parastatal agencies or security forces. But you have beautifully linked how municipal governance system can ensure this human rights, following of human rights, making sure that people have livability in cities. So, how do you see that the whole ecosystem of cities, when we are talking about livability in cities, what are the key areas? Like you already mentioned that air quality, water quality and our overall environmental quality is degrading. And how do you see that when we are addressing all these issues together, what are the key components as a citizens, we as a citizens should demand from the local governments?
Well, it's to some extent it is like chicken and eggs situation, whether people should rise to that level or government should come down to the level of the people. My understanding is both these units must come together. Sometimes you have these issues, slum resettlement issue. If the people there are not ready, what can the municipal bodies can do? If the politicians are saying that do not worry, we will shift you and again bring you back here. What can good governance do? So, human rights as a values has to be part of the foundation of every person who works in local self government. It has to be the foundation on which the edifice of infrastructure will stand. When I talk of dignity, my office is near the Safdarjung airport, and a new bridge has been built बारापुला से आगे कनेक्ट करने वाला, जो आयनी मार्केट चला जाता है from Lodi colony to Ayane market. Now, as the bridge is coming on the both sides and underneath it, there is a huge jhuggi jhopdi is coming up fast. I can see it growing every day. Now, how is it that it is happening? What is wrong with us? We are not able to look after the basic needs of our people. Economic growth and per capita income, ये तो बहुत बड़ी बातें हैं. Obviously, when I see them, I know कि इनकी बड़ी कठिन स्थिति है. So, but it will not happen from the day one if the first such settler, when he is coming under the bridge, the police, the civil administration comes there and says ki, why are you here? Anyway, if you are here, we will provide you a shelter. Go there and we will take you there. So, what has happened is we have reached a level of, what should I say, a proportion of problem to such an extent where it is easy for us to neglect them. We have to go back to the basic and come to the level where we at least have a good understanding of the problem. Second is we have to have urge for excellence. I always realize I avail the services of CPWD and NDMC. They are trying their best, but the thirst and the hunger for excellence is still missing among the people whom I deal with. कि भाई घर का एक मेरा टंकी ठीक करनी है, या एक दरवाज़ा ठीक करना है, अप्रोच रोड ठीक करना है, 4 पौधे लगाने हैं. I see that that एक मज़ा आना चाहिए काम का. मैं कुछ कर रहा हूँ आज के दिन में, मैं अगर नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स पे काम कर रहा हूँ, आई मस्ट बी पजेस्ड बाय इट, तभी तो कुछ कर पाऊँगा. बट अगर मैं मरा सा हूँ, मुझे जॉब में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है, मेरा अपने पर्क्स में मैं खुश हूँ, शान मुझे जो मिलती है उसमें मैं खुश हूँ, तो समथिंग इज रॉन्ग विथ मी. आई एम एक्चुअली अलाउिंग माई सेल्फ टू रॉट. तो ये क्यों होता है? इसमें इंस्पिरेशनल लीडरशिप की आवश्यकता है, एट ब्यूरोक्रेटिक लेवल as well as political leader.
You rightly said the urge for excellence, so you have been in different countries as India's representative. So how do you see that Indians demanding for services from the government and these people in developed countries, especially in Europe and Americas of the world? So how do they look at the local governments?
आई थिंक सबसे बड़ा डिफरेंस कोई अगर है, मैं समझता हूँ कि हाउ द लॉ एंड ऑर्डर इज़ इम्प्लीमेंटेड, बेसिकली वहाँ से स्टार्ट हो जाता है. नाउ इन मेनी कंट्रीज, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, दिस इशू ऑफ मुझे पानी मिलना चाहिए, बिजली मिलना चाहिए, अच्छा रास्ता मिलना चाहिए, दीज इशूज़ डू नॉट एग्जिस्ट. Because it is taken for granted that I will have good roads, I will have water 24/7 and I will have 24/7 bijli and I will have a life of dignity. It is taken for granted, and that is also a urge of I would say thirst and hunger for excellence. Governance should have the urge for this. So that urge is still not visible in our society. That is one of the, I would say, democratic deficit.
You have started two movements also, the two campaigns, one the positivity campaign and other is related to radio campaign, that is for outseas people living outside India. So tell us more about that, why positivity campaign is so important for Indian society right now.
No, positivity in my view is useful for the entire world. There is too much of negativity, too much of pessimism, too much of destructive tendencies, while essentially each of us is a good human being. But sometimes we feel that being good is being weak, being good is being meek. And however, if we have lots and lots of good people who really, and when I say good, meaning they follow these principles of justice, equality and freedom, respect for themselves, respect for others. They follow the fundamental duties enshrined in the constitution. That means you are good. If I am like, Pune is considered very educated city. I am disturbed when I hear that the citizens of Pune have started protesting about the imposition of rule of wearing the helmets. I am disturbed. Something inside me makes me feel very uncomfortable. मैंने कहा अरे तो पढ़े लिखों का शहर है. Why? When I see city like Delhi, people just simply looking here and there and अपना स्कूटर फटाक से टर्न करके चले जाते हैं when it is red. I am disturbed. इन छोटी छोटी चीज़ों से शहर बनते हैं और देश बनता है. बड़े चीज़ों से नहीं बनता है, ये छोटे चीज़ों से बनता है. फिर एक्सेलेंस उसमें कैसे आते हैं. जापान में दे इवन हैव अ मशीन विच कैन पील ऑफ अंगूर, ग्रेप. कैसे, हाउ डू यू फाइंड आउट, हाउ डू यू डू दैट? दैट इज बिकॉज यू हैव अर्ज फॉर एक्सेलेंस, प्रिसीजन. किसी को मतलब आज ही नहीं 20 साल से पहले भी किसी को एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम करने वाला व्यक्ति है जिसको कोल्ड हो गया, ही और शी विल वेयर द मास्क. आज नहीं, कोविड की वजह से 20-25 साल से दे डू इट. आई वॉज पोस्टेड देयर इन 80s. आई सॉ इट. मैंने सोचा मैं भी प्रैक्टिस करूँगा. व्हेन आई वंस हैड कोल्ड, मैंने सब लोग मुझे हंसने लगे, हमारे लोग एम्बेसी वाले. तो ये जो है ये रिफ्लेक्ट्स आवर कैरेक्टर कि हम जस्ट इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं है. बट जिस दिन इंटरेस्टेड होंगे, क्योंकि हमारे पास टैलेंट बहुत है. Human resources, one of the best human resources we have got in the world. We have an excellent system in democracy. We have an absolutely beautiful constitution. So if there is a lack anywhere, it is lack in the mindset. Positivity will come and change that mindset. ये है positivity का importance in life. And radio is my second passion. That is rescuing every distressed Indian overseas. Radio we call it, because we have now 3.5 crore people working abroad and they often get into various difficulties. किसी का पासपोर्ट खो जाता है, कोई क्राइम में फंस जाता है वहाँ पर, कोई बीमार पड़ जाता है, एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है किसी के साथ. Now these people suddenly need help. Somebody should connect them with embassy, somebody should provide them some monetary assistance. So we have informally appointed advisors, in about 20 countries, and any person who is in distress can contact those people. Those people have good network with the embassy, local embassy. They have also good network with the community. So they come together, help that person.
This is very interesting initiative, because when we were seeing people in Indian cities, migrant workers, they were leaving cities. It was a very disturbing moment to describe also. People walking with their small children, walking for,
I cannot forget this.
100 kilometers.
There was one image of a mother pulling the suitcase and the child sleeping like this. Second image is of Aurangabad railway accident. The cargo train killed 16 people in one go. I just cannot forget. Third image I have in mind is this lady who was walking from Mumbai to Madhya Pradesh, somewhere near Indore, and she gave birth on the way, and number of mothers gave birth on the way.
Do you think these are the human rights violations?
Absolutely, yes.
So, and how do, because your radio campaign is very nice, but our Indian cities are not making such consortiums and groups where these migrant workers can find help.
Correct. You know, we should have really set up huge centers for their assistance, you know, immediately. We misunderstood the scale of disaster. Let us take example of Japan. Every child there knows in Japan where to go if there is a serious earthquake takes place, where to go, they know. How to behave if they are in the house, if they are in a hotel, in a school, they all know the drill, because that drill is being sort of done regularly as a practice. हमारे यहाँ disaster का practice कहाँ है, and where is the involvement of common citizen? I think it's local self-government officials should conduct regular drills of disaster. Today disasters come in so many different forms. We should not be losing a single human being in disasters. That should be our effort, because we have to value that person as a living entity, and dignity can be given only when we protect the person. So ये हमारे यहाँ spirit is lacking. We have got lots and lots of NGOs and social organizations, but somehow we still have, maybe we lack coordination, you know, we still have lack of trust. Sometimes the organizations are divided on the basis of caste and religion or the local narrow community feelings. ये भी होता है. Upper class, lower class, that divide is still disturbing us very much, because there is a huge gap.
We have already discussed that we can propose this kind of cells at urban local bodies level and at all India level with the National Human Rights Commission and All India Institute of Local Self Government. We can have, we can plan the modalities, we can have such cell so that we can help the people in need in the times to come. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your time. And one last, with my last question to you, what is your vision for Indian cities, and from the point of view of human rights angle, and what do you want to tell the people those are running cities?
No, I think essentially my request to everyone who is working with any city, any block, or even in panchayat, you know, make yourself aware about what are the human values. Human rights is about human values. We all listen to the bhajans and kirtans and all, satsang hota hai. Those messages that we hear should be percolated in our service, reflected in our service to the people. That is number one. Number two, as a National Human Rights Commission, I would be very happy to work out with the All India Local Self Government Institutes, both in Delhi as well as other parts of India, to build a narrative, to build a kind of a syllabus and course for those who work in the local self government institutes, so that they become empowered with the understanding of human rights. This is the second thing we can do, because in my view, unless every civil servant is aware of human rights, practice of democracy would be very, very difficult. Once they are aware, it will automatically, you know, make path, make way for success of the democracy.
Thank you so much for joining with us and telling us the interlinkages of urban development, urban governance and human rights issues. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you viewers for watching this program, and we will be back in the next one-on-one with a different personality very soon. Thank you so much.